Protesters say they are angry, frustrated, and in disbelief once again. Tonight they are in the streets in cities across the country after a grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky charged one officer in the Breonna Taylor case. But the charges are not directly related to her death. Two other officers face no charges. Here in Atlanta, groups are rallying right now with messages we've heard echoed in communities throughout Georgia: justice for the lives of Black men and women and demands for change. Louisville's mayor has already announced a state of emergency and put a citywide curfew into place starting at 9 p.m.
Meanwhile, the city's police chief says the National Guard has been activated and access to many downtown areas now is restricted. This all comes in the wake of today's long-awaited grand jury decision in the death of Breonna Taylor. The 26-year-old EMT was fatally shot by police when they executed a drug raid at her Louisville, Kentucky home in March. No drugs were found inside that home.
And just into the newsroom, we've learned the former police officer who was indicted, Breonna Taylor, has already been booked and released from the Shelby County, Kentucky Detention Center on $15,000 cash bond. We have team coverage for you tonight, beginning with Jennifer Bellamy, who joins us with the details of the grand jury's decision. And Jennifer, what comes next here?
Well, this decision comes 6 months after Taylor's death and follows more than 100 days of protests in Kentucky and across the country where her name and case were used as a rallying cry.
Breonna Taylor was shot multiple times when officers entered her apartment as part of a narcotics investigation, but no drugs were found in the home. Today, the grand jury indicted former Sergeant Breonna Taylor, who was fired in June following Taylor's death. He's now charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment. But the charge isn't for specifically shooting Taylor. It's for firing 10 shots blindly into her home during the execution of that raid and risking the lives of others in nearby apartments. He could face up to 5 years for each count. The judge set bail at $15,000 cash. The Kentucky Attorney General will now move forward with the case. The 2 other officers involved, Miles Cosgrove and Jonathan Mattingly, were not indicted. During a news conference, the Kentucky Attorney General said an FBI analysis found Cosgrove fired the fatal shot that killed Taylor. But he also said his office's investigation found Cosgrove and Mattingly were justified in the shooting because they were being fired upon by Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker.
According to Kentucky law, the use of force by Mattingly and Cosgrove was justified to protect themselves. This justification bars us from pursuing criminal charges in Miss Breonna Taylor's death.
Walker fired 1 shot at the front door, hitting Officer Mattingly in the leg, saying he thought it was a home invasion. The charges against him were dropped.
Taylor's family had called for the officers involved to face charges of second-degree manslaughter. Taylor's sister tweeting this afternoon that the grand jury failed her sister. She shared a photo of her and Breonna, saying she is at a loss of what to do now. We are also hearing from the family's representatives. They said it's outrageous and offensive that no charge has stemmed from Taylor's death and that her boyfriend shouldn't be cast as the one at fault.
You can't blame Breonna Taylor's boyfriend for firing first. They tried to burst into his apartment as they were sleeping. He had every right as a homeowner to defend himself from anyone trying to break in his apartment, and certainly him firing first is no excuse, no justification for the police firing into the home of Breonna Taylor and killing her as she slept to death.
Just last week, the city of Louisville reached a $12 million settlement in a wrongful death complaint. It's the largest settlement in the city's history, and it also came with promise of police reforms.